Yes, Reshma, now you can proceed.
Okay, sir. Good evening to one and all together here. It's given me an immense pleasure to welcome you all to day 2 of our faculty development program on advanced research methodologies, strategies for teaching and practice, organized by the PG and Research Department of Biochemistry, Sacred Heart College, Autonomous, Tirupattur. Day 1 was truly enriched and setting the perfect tone for the rest of the program. Today, we'll look forward to another exciting and insightful section. Let us continue this journey with once again a very warm welcome to all. Now, it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Govindrajan Sir, UG President, Department of Biochemistry, to kindly introduce our resource person for today's section. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening to one and all. It is my great pleasure to introduce our esteemed resource person, Dr. R. Vidya, Associate Professor in the Department of Biochemistry at Vail Institute of Science, Technology and Advanced Studies, Chennai. Dr. Vidya holds an impressive academic record with a PhD in biochemistry along with MPhil and MSc degrees, all conferred with distinction from Pungunadu Arts and Science College, Coimbatore. With over 12 years of teaching experience and 8 years of dedicated research, she has made significant contributions to multiple domains, including biochemistry, nanotechnology, hydroponics, urolithiasis, medicinal plant research, antioxidant studies, cancer biology, in both in vivo and in vitro research methodologies. Her research excellence is evident from her 35 peer-reviewed journal publications and 9 book chapters, 9 books, 6 book chapters, 4 patents, and consistent contributions to national and international conferences. She has guided 16 MSc students and successfully mentored 2 PhD scholars, with 4 more currently under her guidance. Dr. Vidya has been the recipient of several prestigious accolades, including the Best Teacher Award 2024 and Young Scientist Award 2024, and multiple Best Oral Presentation Awards and the Faculty Excellence Awards from Vistas. She also been honored with recognition in the Lincoln Book Records for her role as a resource person in unique webinar series. In addition to her academic achievements, she has secured funded research projects from both the TNSCT and Wales University, and she actively contributes as a life member of scientific bodies like Society for Biotechnologies and the Academic and Research Conclave, while also serving as a reviewer for reputed journals. Dr. R. Vidya's commitment to scientific advancement, mentorship, and academic excellence makes her an inspiring and impactful resource person. We are honored to have her with us today, and we look forward to gaining from knowledge and experience. So now I'd like to hand over session to Dr. R. Vidya, ma'am. So, ma'am, please take the session.
Good evening, sir. Thank you, sir, for the nice introduction.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening to one and all present here. So I would like to thank the Dr. Nia, sir, for giving me the opportunity and the organizers of this college for conducting this wonderful FDP program. Shall I share my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
இனிப்பா ஏதாவது இருக்கா? தொண்டை ஒரு மாதிரியா இருக்கு.
I hope the slides are, but I couldn't. make it as a slideshow.
Yes, ma'am. No issues, ma'am. You can proceed as is also. It is
Okay, sir.
visible.
Okay. No, sir. Slideshow is. Okay.
Kindly click on that view button. View button. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, it is normal only.
I think there is no down. You can see, ma'am. Down. The down. You can zoom, and there is a button here. Click that. It will come. It will show the full screen.
So 5 minutes before we have checked with the slideshow, sir. That is,
Okay, ma'am. No problem. Please go ahead.
but now it is not working.
மினிமே மேம் ஒரு தடவை
Sir?
க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிட்டு மறுபடியும் போங்க மேம். ஒரு தடவை க்ளோஸ் பண்ணிட்டு மறுபடியும் போங்க.
Yes,
ஒரு தடவை
yes.
ஒர்க் அவுட் ஆச்சு.
Other last time, 5 minutes before it is working.
எஸ் எஸ் நீங்க ட்ரையல் பண்ணும்போது நல்லா ஃபுல் ஸ்கிரீன் வந்தது.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So hope it is visible now.
மேம்
Yes,
பர்ஃபெக்ட்
ma'am.
மேம். பர்ஃபெக்ட்.
Yes. Yes. So good evening to one and all. So the today's topic, it is about the identifying research gaps across the disciplines. I'm Dr. Vidya, Associate Professor from Wales University. So this is how we have to bridge the gap through the multidisciplinary activities. So these are all the contents we are going to see or discuss today. So what is the definition for research gap and the significance, and what are all the types of research gaps and how to identify that particular research gap, and what are the challenges and limitations when we are facing the identification of research gaps, and how to framework to identify the particular gaps, and how to present it, and the common mistakes we are doing in the presenting research gap. These are all the contents we are going to discuss it today. So research gap, as we all know, the gap between the unanswered problems or unanswered questions or unexplored questions. So these we call it as a research gap, or a concept or any idea it cannot it didn't study, we call it as research gap. So before we enter into research gap, I'll show you one case study, and then we'll move on to the theory part. So this is the case study. Hope you all heard this news from Tamil Nadu. This is the happened in Tamil Nadu from Tirunelveli. Yellow tapped this thing, that is by the a small child, and he lost his life. So இது தமிழ்ல வந்து கதண்டு வண்டுன்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. The treatment for this, it is for EpiPen. This is used in foreign countries. But in India, we don't have that EpiPen that which contains the adrenaline hormone or epinephrine hormone, which is useful for the sting bites. But it is not available in India because it costs more amount, and we do not have that kind of facility to have it as a pen in our home. So that is the basic gap or something else. It is available in India. So whenever, but in foreign countries they used to have this pen because it cost around 55,000 in America. But in India we are not affordable for that, so we don't have that pen. If we have that EpiPen or this injection in our home, it is like a pen only. We can when we have that bite, we can use it for our treatment. So if we have that pen in India, we can save a life of a person or this child. So this is the case study or the scenario. You can keep it in your mind. After the ending of this FDP, you can tell me it comes under which research gap, or how we can solve this gap. Yes. So these are all the definitions about the research gap from the popular scientist. It is the starting point for research from Miller-Bloch, and it is the output which is considered by Robinson. And the significance of research gap, as I told, it is the when you have any doubt or any misunderstanding or whatever it is from the research ideas or something else, you can develop a new research ideas or new proposal ideas. So, and the repetitive ideas also, it is removed from the research gap. And these are all the basics of research. And what are all the types? The research gap, it is proposed by many scientists. Research gap, it is 2011, it is defined by Robinson, it is PICO, it is by population, intervention, comparison, outcomes, and the settings. And the other scientists also. But we follow nowadays, it is in these 7 types of research gaps. We'll see one by one. So the first, it is about the evidence gap, knowledge gap, methodology, empirical, theoretical, and the population gap. So we'll see one by one. So what is research gap and how can we identify the one? It is through the literature survey also, we can identify a gap. So when we are thoroughly study any type of articles, research articles, or maybe any newspaper cuttings, as we discussed before. When we go through it, we can get some doubts or how to rectify that particular doubt. So that literature survey also we can get a research gap. Then identify the contradictions and the inconsistencies. Because one time you have studied one report is valid, and after that article it denies that particular report. So that contradictions also. Then the practical relevance, and when you go for any methodologies or the emerging trends. So these are all the techniques, unanswered questions, or sometimes the interdisciplinary connections. We are going to discuss about it. So these are all the techniques. From these techniques, we can get the research gap, and we have to go for the solution also. But most importantly, that is the audience perspective and the personal interest. So these are all the things which is very, very important for identifying a research gap. Yes, as I told, it is the insufficient studies. When you go through any articles or any research project, any thesis, whatever it is, those the insufficient studies, maybe the any statistical report or any results is lacking. So that studies, it leads to a research gap and lack of understanding. Sometimes we may thought some of the results by misunderstanding the concept. So that also leads to the research gap. And the problems or the limitations, it may be of financial, it may be of time constraint, or it may be of any methodological data. So in the previous studies also, it leads to the identification of research gaps, and it questions the everything. So these are all the techniques for identifying research gap. So you have to study the specific sections about the introduction. So when you take the manuscript or the any article, you have to go through the introduction part, the methodology, the conclusion, and everything. So when you read it thoroughly, you will get where it is lacking. So how we have to identify it? So these are all the techniques. While you go through the research papers, it is mentioned that so far it is not yet reported, so far it is not yet studied. So these are all the sentences which make you more attention to identify the research gap. And this next sentence, it is required or needed. So these are all the areas which is needed for more attention. So these are all the these are all the areas which is needed, the research, which is identified as a research gap, and we have to go for the solution. And the key question, what is the major area of the particular research? And it is important to address. For example, when you go for the COVID research papers, it is mainly focusing on the vaccination. So that is what type of vaccination, whether it is suitable for adults or whether it is suitable for kids or older persons, or the persons having cardiac arrest or something resulted with the associated diseases. So these are all the questions which is identifying the research gaps. And another questions, so these are all the things you have to keep it in your mind. So when you go through this, the significance of the particular research, it covers the broader field. It covers the whole discipline, and how this article, it is helpful to your research question, to your particular research. And the author's argument, it does need more clarification, or that clarification, it is, are you satisfied with that? And it is there any different perspective you can go through this? So these are all the things you have to cover it, and definitely have to prioritize the gaps like population, scope, methods, and the analysis, etc. So whenever you go through anything, so these are all the questions it should come to your mind. So that leads to a identification of a particular research gap. And as I told, these are all the scientific tools. Essential Science Indicator, it gives you a more number of the best scientific articles, the Google Trends or other Springer. So these are all the tools you can get so much repetitive journals and the papers. So from this, when you go through this, you will get a proper knowledge. And after studying the particular research paper, you will get to identify the research gap from the journal or the manuscript. So this is the crisp of identification. So first it is like you have to read literature review, as I told, and you have to identify the direction, which discipline, whether it includes the engineering, or it includes the science department, or it includes the philosophy or sociology. So what comes under the next step, so that you have to identify. And again, you have to double check the literature. It doesn't mean that once you study the article one time or two times, that is not sufficient. So you have to go through the double check literature, and you have to discuss with supervisor, or you can discuss with your collaborative team or the multidisciplinary colleagues with the other faculties. So these are all the techniques. Then you have to conduct the full literature review along with your collaboration team. Then identify the crisp gap or the short gaps, which is helpful to the next level of research. And these are all the strategy, as I told, the through literature survey, then the analysis, that is to evaluate your methodologies, findings, and the conclusions. And after that, you have to identify the contradictions or the unanswered questions, then which is helpful to your the current trending or the technology. Then you have to select the research gap. So far we have seen what is research gap and all. Now we have to see why this identification of research gap is very, very important. So the first, it is the advancement of knowledge, which means when you go for the further investigation or further research beyond the boundaries, you have to know the current understanding of the particular project or the particular research. So that is the one thing. And the innovation. So merely passing through the routine methodology or routine research work, it is not enough. So we have to go some innovative ideas or novel ideas. We have to identify a research gap. And moreover, from the funding agencies like ICMR, ICAR, CSAR, SERP, everything, it looking after the research gap, which the project is filling the research gap. They have ready to fund more amount for research. And the relevance also, even though if it is published, and the increased the impact of the particular paper, we can get from the unanswered questions from the particular paper, and we can go for the research gap, and we can go for the next step of solution as a project. And the funding opportunities, as I told, most of the funding agencies like CSAR, ICMR, everything, they are looking for the projects which is considered for the research gap. So this is we have discussed. This is the definition for research gap. And we have to discuss about the various types of research gap. As I told, it is the theoretical gap, empirical gap, methodological gap, practical gap, literature, historical, cultural, and conceptual gap. We'll see one by one. So theoretical gap, as we know, it is the basic theory knowledge or understanding of any particular concept. For example, yes, if a researcher like us, we want to study the relationship between the personality of a person and the job satisfaction. Is there any connection between that? No. So what we have to do, we have to get the concept or the theoretical knowledge about the person's personality traits, which means the person's education, qualification, their hobbies, everything we have to know. So these are all there is no connection between the personality trait and the job satisfaction. So what we have to do, we have to follow the steps to find the theoretical gap. So we have to go through the literature survey, and after analyzing that, we have to give the brainstorm solution. We have to give the questions to the particular research group where we are going to conduct the analysis. After that, we have to analyze this and develop the and after that we have to frame the theoretical work. So that is covered under the theoretical graph. So next it is about empirical gap. It is not about any idea. It needs empirical evidence or any solid findings for the empirical gap. So this is, for example, it is like if you want to study the effect of any new medicine, for example, this COVID vaccine or anything else, any typhoid or anything else, or even for Dolo 650. But to the particular patients or to the particular group, maybe the older age or the younger age or even to the children, we want some data, the specific data which is needed about the condition of particular tablet or the medicines. So for that, we have to go for the clinical trial or we have to collect the data from the particular persons. So that research gap, it needs the empirical, we call it as an empirical gap. We need some solid evidence or the empirical evidence to support the particular gap or the hypothesis. As I told, it is for to analyze the positive effect of the mental health. It is related with the exercise. So when you go for regularly, when you go for any gym or any exercise, it doesn't lead you to the proper mental health. So there is no evidence or there is no proof for it. So we have to go for the literature survey and we have to go for the meta-analysis. Then only we can conclude that whether it is right or wrong. So these are all the techniques, or we have to follow the methodology to identify the empirical gap. So which includes the inconsistent results. That also it comes under the empirical gap, and the limited scope. For example, if you want to focus on the teaching methodology, since we are from a teaching background, we want to implement a particular methodology to the students. And we are not only relying about the test score or their internal exams. We have to analyze the other factors also, how they are receiving the concept and whether the students are interested to study the particular concept through this methodology. So these are all the limited scope. We cannot implement to all the classes or all the universities. So these are all which comes under the empirical gap. And these are all the steps we have to follow it. As I told, it is you have to identify the question, and definitely the literature surveys should be taken out. And after that, we have to evaluate the existing studies. We have to compare with the current studies and the existing studies, and we have to identify the gaps with the empirical evidence. Then we have to develop a new research design. Then we can go for the particular research in the future goal. So these are all the steps involved in the finding empirical gap. So the next step is the methodological gap. As the term itself defines that we can use the particular methodology to a particular research, but sometimes the limitations or flaws, sometimes the statistical data or sometimes the analysis report, it leads to a methodological gap. So the sample size, inadequate sample size, the inappropriate sample size, or sometimes the time constraint. So these are all comes under the methodological gap. As I told, it is the insufficient statistical methods and inadequate sampling method, the sample size. So these are all comes under the methodological gap. So this has to covered by the literature survey, the existing methodology, and we have to go through the next new methodology, or the developing the different methodology. So everything, it is basically it involves the same type of problems. We have to identify the research question, we have to go through the literature review, then we have to compare with the existing studies, and we can identify the gaps. Then we have to fill the research gap through the our own new research design, or our own new methodology. So next, it is about the practical gap. So hope you'll find the answer. So practical gap, it is a gap between the theoretical and the empirical finding. So sometimes we can have the all the data, all the relevant data, we can have it, but we cannot go for the further steps because of the practical difficulties in our research work. So that comes under the practical gap. Can anyone tell any example? Because sometimes the funding, it plays an important role. Sometimes the time constraint, we have to complete a project. For MSc project, we have to complete within 4 months, or within 1 semester or 6 months. But the project, it takes maybe more than 6 months or 1 year time. So the lack of time, everything, the practical difficulties, it comes under the practical gap. So sometimes we cannot go for the application of the existing knowledge in the real world setting. For example, it is if you are developing a new methodology for a patients, or new techniques to the new software to the particular app, but you cannot do it in a common man or common world, because sometimes it needs the software, or it needs some sort of technology. So that comes under the implementation challenges. And next, it is the limited dissemination. For example, if you find any findings, or if you need any research work, it has to do with the further process. So for that process, you need some amount of financial crisis, or a financial stability, and lack of collaboration. So these are all comes under the practical difficulties. We address it as practical gap. And this is it is about the steps which is you have to identify. So you have to identify the practical applications, then we have to develop the practical solutions. As I told, it is to fill the gaps, to fill the research gaps, the practical solutions, which is very, very important. So how to develop it and how to implementing the solutions, that is more important. So these are all the gaps. So far we are seeing the different types of research gaps. And next, it is the literature gap. Literature gap, it is more commonly used in the language people. So they are using the particular, because their thesis, it is all about the literature survey, more amount of literature survey they needed. So this literature gap, it is about the language people. They are using about for so from literature, they have to study each and every part of a novel or any poem. So they have to study each and every question, and they have to go for the extensive research. As I told, it is from each and every bit of a question. Then it has to be discussed with your supervisor or any other collaborative colleague. Then they have to imply whether it will be useful or whether it can be processed in the further. So this is how we can identify the gaps in the literature. As I told, it is the published literature for your analysis. Next, it is you have to get any support from your supervisor or any mentor. Next, it is you have to use the digital tools. As I told, it is from the Google or any trending tools or any artificial intelligence tools to get the more amount of research papers. Then fourth, it is to check the reputed journal websites, not for the predatory ones. And you have to study each and every question. Then you have to make a question. So that is most important. merely reading a paper or merely reading any research article, that is not at all going to useful. We have to make a note of it. What is the question? What is the gap it is left in the particular research article, or what we have to identify? So each and every line you have to make a note of it. Then only you will get a gap, or you will get some idea or some spark in it to identify a research gap. So these are all the examples of literature gap. It is like as I told, it is specific health conditions. You want to analyze the specific health conditions from the minority groups or any particular geographic area. So these are all the things you have to go through many literature survey. Then only you can go for the literature identifying a literature gap. Then it is like insufficient attention to the emerging issues. So new health threats nowadays, the viral fever or these are all something which is developing day by day. Not only COVID, after that also. So these are all the things we have to address it, and the inadequate attention to the particular aspect. So some sort of research they are focusing on, for example, in any cancer related research, they are focusing only on the in vivo, in silico, that is enough. But more than that, we can go for any genomic study or any genetical material. So these are all the things we have to identify as a inadequate attention. That is that area, it is not at all touched by any researcher. So that we have to make a note of it, and we have to go for the literature survey, and we can fill that gap also. So these are all the study steps involved in the finding a literature gap. It is research questions, it is same, and you have to make again the literature survey questions. Then you can go for the final new research. And the historical gap. So the historical gaps, which means after a period of time, we cannot get the enough amount of data, or the data is maybe lacking. So that gap we have to address it. For example, that Keeladi and the other historical places, we are lacking some data now. So that comes under the historical gap, and we have to identify that historical gap, and we have to fulfill the research also. So for example, we have to identify the particular type of area in northeastern people or the African people. So we cannot we cannot get the enough data nowadays, but we have to go through the literature survey, and we have to analyze it, and we have to compare with the current generation. Then we can fill the historical gap. So the incomplete records of important events, we do not have that events, or we do not have that records nowadays, but we can get it through the literature survey, and or we can get it through the particular persons from the tribal people or their ancestors from the etc. So these are all the steps which is involved in the historical gap identification. So we have to identify the research question, and we have to analyze, as I told, existing historical documents. It may be from any form of written form or any documents from the ancestors or any tribal people. We have to analyze the existing historical documents, and we have to identify the gaps from the historical record, and we have to develop the research questions from that, and we can go for the new historical research. For example, in Western Ghats or Eastern Ghats, there are so many biodiversity spots are there. So from that, we cannot know what are the medicinal plants which is useful for a particular disease and all. So we have to get the particular data from that tribal people, and we can use it for our own research. So for that, we have to identify the historical gap in the biological people and the health sector people. We have to identify the gap, and we have to fulfill the solution also. So next, it is the cultural gaps. So the name itself, it refers, it is the understanding knowledge between the individuals or the group of from different cultural backgrounds. Because in India, it is the university in diversity. We follow different practices from each and every states. Even in our own district, itself, in many districts, we have some other cultural differences. It is there. So we have to identify that differences, and we have to address that differences also. As I told, it is like ethnicity, religion, race, gender. So there are so many differences in the cultural. So we have to identify that cultural gaps, and we can choose it as a research career for our practices. And that is the misunderstanding of cultural values and belief. So this is comes under the, it differs from each and every individual person. One place they may believe it is a very good practice, but the other place, other cultural people, they are not at all following it. So we have to identify it. And lack of knowledge about the cultural practices. For example, it is visitors to your foreign countries. They are not aware of the dress codes to visit in our temple. So for analyzing it or identifying it, the board is there. This dress code, you have to follow it. So these are all the lack of knowledge about the cultural practices. So these are all the gaps which has to be identified. And the underrepresentation of cultural perspectives. And the next, it is the stereotyping and the prejudice. So these are all the things we have to stop it, and we should not assume it. And we have to go for the identification of cultural gaps, and we have to take it as our research. So the cultural materials and analyzing the existing cultural materials, the literature survey, it is very basic for every gap, whether it is the practical gap, whether it is the theoretical, conceptual, cultural. We have to follow the literature survey. From that, we have to go for the analysis. Then we have to go for the identify. Then we have to develop any research questions or any hypothesis. Then we can go for the new cultural research. So this comes under the cultural gap. And the conceptual gap, it is like any concept. It doesn't mean any it doesn't need any evidence or just a basic idea is needed for this. And any understanding, if you understand any particular concept, or if you agree with any fundamental rights, or for example any Newton's law, or the protein estimations, or anything else. So if you understand the concept, but you have some doubts why this technique it is followed in the same way, why not in the different perspective. So these all comes under the conceptual gap. But what is the major disadvantages? Lack of agreement when you go for the definition of a key concept, because one person may think in the same way, and the other person, they are not thinking in the same perspective. So that comes under the examples of the conceptual gap, that is the lack of agreement in the definition. Because as it mentioned in the slide, the leadership, the personality, the beauty, as we told, the beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. But some persons, the beauties differ. So this comes under the conceptual. We have some concept in our own brain, in our own thinking. That comes under the conceptual gap. But the other persons may be thinking that is the different perspective. And the conflicts, as I told, it is the conflicting theoretical perspective. Any theory or any existence rewards, so that comes under the conceptual gap. And the research design or methodology. So for sometimes we want to study a new methodology or new techniques, but sometimes we have already the concept is established. Why we shouldn't follow the same technology or same analysis technique? So sometimes we cannot able to clearly define whether this conceptual gap is needed, or we can sometimes it leads to a unclear results. So that comes under the conceptual gap. And these are all the steps you have to identify a conceptual gap. That is, you have to frame the concepts. Then you have to develop a new concepts for your supporting research gap. Then you have to evaluate and refine the new conceptual framework. So next, it is the challenges. So the challenges, it is about identification of research gap. It is more important. Then challenges, it is about when you go through the more amount of literature survey, what will happen? You will get confused. Lot of unanswered question it will be there. So you are not very familiar, or you are not sure with the particular questions. You will be wavering your mind, and which question you have to answer first, and which question we have to left out. So these are all the more amount of information which leads to more amount of confusion, and we cannot set the boundaries. whether it should be included or excluded. So we cannot set the boundaries. And the challenging the established ideas. So once the idea is already established and it is well going, we have some hesitation whether we have to follow the new techniques or whether we have to follow the new methodology when we have the already established one. So next it is the framework. So how to framework the identification of research work. So these are all the things. It is first, it is the localization. We have to set the information using the chart method or the concept matrix method to clear our ideas. So the characterization, which is important, and the verification. So this is how you have to follow the chart method or the concept matrix from the Watson 2002. So what you have to do, you have to make the sources. For example, the concept, you can take it for the health benefit of a vaccine and the people from the Tamil Nadu or people all over India. So this is the concept. You have to take the enormous amount of sources from research data or research articles. So when you read the source one, whether this concept it is relevant, you can tick it as tick mark, or you can mark it as any special. Then the concept two, in that concept you have to make it as a subtypes. So every sources when you are studying, it comes under which concept. So first it may be the concept one, it comes under the areas among the Tamil Nadu or the India. Our next concept, it is about the children, about the vaccination. The third, it is about the adult with the associated diseases. So these are all the concepts, sub-concepts you can make it, and you can tick mark the every sources and the concept. So from that, finally, you will get how to framework and how to identify the research gap. And this is how you have to present your research gaps. It is highlight some of the prior research through your literature survey. After identifying, you have to mention the supporting evidence, or you have to cite 2 or the 3 relevant articles. Then only you can go for the research gap. So in addition, so the previous research, it is mentioned that these are all the points. We have to unexplore, or we have to answer the unanswered question in that particular part or the particular research. Next, it is the common mistakes while going for the identification of research gap. So the lack of detailed reading. So sometimes what we do is we particularly focus on one type of research articles, and we do not read other related articles. So that detailed reading, it is lacking. And sometimes after reading 1 or 2 articles, or after reading 10 to 50 articles, we directly jumping into conclusion that this is the final, we identified the research gap and we can go for the further solution. So that is not the case. So that is the place we are making mistakes, and lack of justification for addressing the gap. And it is identification of gap. It doesn't mean that just identification. We have to justify the particular gap through our literature survey, through all the techniques we are following it. I'm not giving credit to the earlier research, because from the existing research only we are getting the gaps. So we have to give the credit for the particular researchers. That is the basic ethics also. And sometimes the lack of academic writing style also, it leads to the presentation of research gap in a wrong way. So how to eliminate or how to remove this research gap? So most commonly they are using the PICO, that is population, intervention, comparison, and outcomes framework. So this is how it involves 2 major components. So first, we have the identification and classification of the research gap, why this gap is existed. So this is one thing. And second thing, it is the characterization of the research gap using because the characterization of the research gap only we have discussed so far. What are the types and how we have to follow the steps to identify and how to go for the solution. So the first, it is the identifying the research gaps. So the first reason, it is the insufficient or the imprecise information. The next, it is the biased information. So when we are not thoroughly go for any literature survey, it leads to the biased information. Sometimes the inconsistency or the unknown consistency from the data. and not the right information. So these are all the reasons for the identifying research gap in a wrong way. And the characterization, it is population. So first, it is the information regarding the population. It may be of gender, it may be of any race or a age group or any particular diseases, whatever it is, it has to be presented in a proper sampling size or a appropriate sampling size. If it is not adequately represented, it comes under the population. And intervention, it is like the evidence, it should be the duration, time duration, everything, it should be in a proper manner. If it is inadequately included also, we cannot remove the research gap. Then the comparison, the lack of information regarding the comparison and the standard. So the already established one and the current uh, new technique also. And the outcomes, this is more important. So the type of outcomes or the timing of outcomes. So if it is lacking, we cannot able to remove the research gap. And the setting, it is relevant settings for the research gap. It is like new methodology or any techniques. And the finding gaps in the interdisciplinary approaches. So first we have to explore the related fields like investigate the literature and methodologies from the adjacent disciplines. Or for example, it is like life sciences to the engineering field, or from any sociology field or psychology. And we have to look for the unanswered questions, which means the identify problems that one discipline cannot fully solve it. So that how we have to identify the unanswered questions, and which needs the cross-disciplinary research. So we have to find the opportunities. If the research gap, it needs the multiple disciplines, we have to go for the collaborative work. And this is the first example. So the environmental science and the urban planning, this is the major concept. So the first question, it is about the urban planning integrate ecological principles for resilient sites. Can anyone tell me the answers in your chat box? What are all the field or what are all the solution for this question? We can identify as a research gap. The question, it is, how can the urban planning integrate ecological principles of resilient cities? So is there, can you able to find any gaps, any research gap in this question? Can we able to? Can you type it in your chat box? No. Okay, I'll go for the answer. So these are all the disciplines, multidisciplinary. So that is the environmental science and the urban planning, or the engineering, that is the architecture department, and the sociology department and the engineering department. This has to be involved for this question, this particular research project. And we can develop the green infrastructure, which is improve the urban living and the ecosystem also. This is how the multidisciplinary, it takes place in when you go for identifying any research gap. Definitely it needs the multidisciplinary solutions. Next question, it is about the public health and the data science. So in what way the data science, which is predicting any disease outbreaks with the greater accuracy? I repeat the questions. In what ways the data science is helpful in predicting the disease outbreak with greater accuracy? What are all the major domains, or what are all the gaps can you able to identify it? Research gaps. Any answer in the S? Cultural gap, empirical gap. This is for the, shall I take it as for the second question's answer? Okay. So, wait a minute. I'll, can I get some answers? So these are all the gaps. So which is it has involved the big data analysis and the early detection of business. And the discipline which is involved, it is the public health, the data science, that is the computer science department, and the epidemiology and the statistics analysis also. As I mentioned, it is the computer science department. So these are all the major domains, and the research gap, it is involved in the public health and the data science. So these are all the techniques in the multidisciplinary approach when you go for the identification of research gap. So from the point of point of view of one discipline, we can give you the separate research outcome or a single research outcome, we can get it. But when you go for the multidisciplinary approaches, so you can get the view from the, or you can get the multiple disciplines perception from the other's point of view, and you can give the separate research outcome also. Next, it is for the interdisciplinary approaches. You can collaborate with your, for example, life science, we can collaborate with biotechnology, microbiology, bioinformatics also, and computer science, you can collaborate with your own artificial intelligence, machine learning and all. So these are all the interdisciplinary approaches. From that point of view, you can collaboratively work, and the integrated research outcome, it will be generated. So which is more relevant and which is more useful also. Then the transdisciplinary approaches, it is like you have to involve the stakeholders, you have to involve the entrepreneurs, investors, and the academic persons, also the policymakers or the government. So these are all the which is more powerful. You can get the integrated research outcomes. The policies will be newly generated, and the products and the solutions, it will be generated. So now we come to the answer session of the first question. So can anyone tell me it comes under which gap? I have shown the slide in the first question, right? So can anyone tell me it comes under which gap it has to be addressed? Empirical, okay. Any other answers? Concept, historical. Yeah, it may it actually it is comes under the practical gap, because the EpiPen, it is available in foreign countries. Due to the affordability only, we cannot able to get this. And cultural also, it comes under this particular question. So what we have to fulfill the gap, we have to develop a pen or develop an injection which is affordable to our own country or to our own people. So that is the first gap. Then we have to go for the because this is the very common problem in any village type persons, the sting bites. So everything is cultural, practical. I'm getting answers. So definitely it is the practical gap, the practical difficulties, we have to address it. Even the costliest pen, we can go for any cheap, for example, insulin, it is there. So insulin nowadays, we are affordable for everyone. So that is how we have to use for it. We have to make up any injection or any tablet, and even though any ointment or gel type of medication for this particular sting bite, so that we can get it will be helpful for the saving life of a people. So these are all the things we have to address it. So the research gap, it is not only for identification, it has to fulfill the solution also. So that will be benefit to the overall society and the mankind. So yes, hope I covered the research gap and the types. Thank you for the opportunity.
Dear participants, if you have any queries, kindly ask or post in chat box. Okay, ma'am, there is no
Yes.
queries. Thank you, ma'am, for your engaging and insightful section on identifying research gap across the disciplines. Your clear explanations on topic were incredibly helpful. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Day 2
Thank you, ma'am.
feedback link post in chat box. Kindly fill it, dear participants.
Thank you, Vidya ma'am. Thank you for your availability and enlighten us with your strong knowledge on the research gaps, because
Thank
it
you,
is
sir.
a crucial step for developing meaningful research. You have explained the detailed input on reviewing the literature and analyzing data, and the research gap was filled with your help. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks for your availability and enlighten us. Thank you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
madam.
you.
Thank you for your wonderful lecture on research gap. Really, it was very useful as well as very informative, and you have covered everything. Okay, what are the gaps that is available for research? Thank you. Thank you for your availability, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. I hope you all had the enriching experience during day 2 of our FDP program. It gives me an immense pleasure to invite you to join us for day 3 of the FDP, which promise another round of insightful section, engaging discussion and knowledge sharing. Looking forward your enthusiastic presence and participation. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Reshma. Thank you, JP. Speaker,
Thank you,
madam.
sir. Thank you, Nia, sir. Thank you, Rashmi, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Good night, all. Thank you. Tomorrow we'll see. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Reshma,
Yes, sir.
you can wind up, ma?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Vidya, ma'am. Thank you for your availability. God bless.
Thank you, sir.